All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And you know how we used to do it? We always start on the dot. Yes, yes, time is very, very important. And as a financial modeler, you also need to understand the power of time. I'm glad you are able to make it to this session and good to have every one of us once again. Yes, 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 yes. Welcome to our session 3 of our timeouts with Victor on financial modeling. Yeah, so let me just show my face before we start the session. Good to have every one of us. I trust you are doing great. I trust you are really doing and fine. Yes, good to have you, everyone. So you can also type in the chat box. Yes, yes, yes. And I trust our week has actually been great. It's been a busy period, right? The start of the year was always kind of busy, busy here and there, trying to sort things out. Right. So thank you all, everyone again. Thank you for making it to this session. So without wasting much of our time, let's just go straight to what we'll be doing today. And a big sponsor to our big shout out to our sponsor and our supporter, right? The Brand Consulting. We are currently working Microsoft and alongside with our Microsoft most valuable professional group. Then my professional colleague Adedola Mushogelola, financial analyst and valuation and modeling at Deloitte. As I said, will be the one taking us through the business valuation part after we've built out our model completely. So today, what are the things we'll be looking at? Last session, we were able to take a look at how you understand getting your assumptions and a business concept as a whole, right? And we said the whole thing is, oh, you're just thinking from the perspective of the output and you're asking to forecast this line item, what do I need? What are the components? And you try and build out, create a questionnaire to be able to guide your client to be able to fill those necessary data needed. So we did that last week and we had our group activity where we later agreed that, you know what, let's work with this particular business concept. So from there, we take a look at how do we get to extract this and building out your model. And this extracting of your assumptions need to really follow the fast standard. As I said, financial modeling should be very, very flexible. You should be able to build your model in such a way that you build it here, send it to someone anywhere in the world, and they can always update the model whether you are there or not, and they also understand the model. And that's the whole concept of what we are teaching us, right? A lot of people can build model, but not everyone can build a model that's number one is generally acceptable, a model that if you build it, even if you are not there in the next 2 or 3 years, someone else can pick the model. Maybe the person does not even have any idea on financial modeling. The person can still pick the model and understand what you've done and can still update it. And that's the whole thing about modeling. So from there, we create our calculation blocks, and then we have some activities that we'll be doing. Or we are going straight to the practical aspect of it. So let me show us the financial extract that we had last session, right? This is what we're able to come up with, and I share this with us through our mail as well. So the name of our company is Bootvest Limited. So let's start doing that one after the other. The next thing we are doing is we want to extract our assumptions. Sorry to guys that missed the last session. Yeah, sorry about that. Right, you really missed a whole lot. Okay, so what's the name of our company? Bootvest Limited. So let me change this to Bootvest Limited. And we are working with a fintech, right? And our currency is also in Naira. So I think that is good. If I look at my coverage, my cover page. So let me just try and increase this font. So we are working with Bootvest. And what do they do? Bootvest is a fintech business model that will be lending funds to business individual and charge interest. Okay, I think this kind of look more like our business concept, right? And also we'll be having some savings. So let's review what we said the whole business model would be. And so we said providing loans to SME businesses, subscription service on the platform, and also we have some investments. So now the next thing is for us to now build out our model. All right. So just to remind us of the cycle that we are working with, business model and canvas, and we said we're going to start with taking a look at some general and macro economic assumptions that can affect a business as a whole. So the first thing we need to do is to go straight to our input worksheet and let's start building. Let's start extracting our input. So please, as much question as you have, try and ask. As I said, we are not sharing the recording of the session. Yes. So, but in case you need the recording later, maybe that's something we can discuss to find a way around that. But I would really like us to be very, very attentive, understand the concepts, right? It's not static. You can be creative with your own, but understand it, understand what is the reason behind this, why are we doing it this way, why are we not doing it this way. Ask as much question as possible. So we said the first thing is for us to start with our general macro assumptions, right? Just like we reviewed last session, our business cycle and accounting cycle. So let's start. Let me just create headings here. General, I'm going to call it general and macro economic, right? Or is it economics? Which one? Is it macroeconomic or macroeconomics assumptions? Let me be sure I got that right. So let me put this based on our sales start. This should be heading one. Then here, let's have our general assumption. So when you are building your model, always remember structuring of your model is very, very important. It's very, very important. So the first thing that I think we need is our period. Let's have our period count. So let me put this as our description, kind of giving description to our rows. So equal to last year, which is 0 plus 1. That will give us our 1. Can just drag that to the right. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the next thing we need is our what? What do you think the next thing we need? I think we also need our month in a period. So I can put this as month. Right? Do you know any formula that can help us get the number of months in a period? Anyone? Formula that can help us get a month within a two different dates. So remember, we'll be sharing knowledge together as well. Okay, yes. Okay, Garnish, seems you are talking, but we cannot hear you. Yes, the file will definitely be shared. Yes, don't worry, just give a just focus and we can see that. So what I'm saying is we want to know how many months do we have between this 31st December and 31 December 2022. Yes, is there any formula? So the file will be definitely be shared with us, don't worry. Months. How will months count the number of months between this period? Okay, so I think we have a formula called dated if, and it's more like my own I kind of like the formula. So by the time I'm typing the formula, if you type date, you see that you have option of different formulas. But if you type dated if and you open the brackets, previously this used to be in Excel. I don't know why they decided to take it off. So what dated if does is it just help you look for um, count the number of months, or maybe if you want to count the number of years within a period and all those things. Yes, I know some of us would have preferred to use months minus, so months, put the formula, then minus the month to give it, but that's kind of stressful. For dated if, type the dated if, open your brackets. I think you should always start with the base year, previous year, comma, and the current year, comma, then open your quotes. If you want a month, just type your M and close the quotes and close the brackets, and I think that will definitely give you 12. So assuming we want a year, all I need to put is change this M to Y, right? And it will give me year. If I want days, this Y, I'll just change this to D, and you see to give me the number of days. So we are working with our months. So we know that yes, this is the number of months that we have in a period. So let's also look at days in a period. Days in a period. So I'm going to call it days, right? And so we don't need to use that. We don't need to use formula for this one. Just current year ending date minus previous year ending date, and that will give us the number of days in that period. Now, notes, we've created a sales style guide here, and anything you are doing in your model, remember, you should always follow these sales styles. We're saying formula sales style should always be like this, and we look at what we have in inputs, you can see everything here. They are formula. So always keep that in mind, right? So do we need any other thing? Do we need any other thing? Yeah, if you yes, if you can record at your own end, that's fine. Yes, that's fine if you can record at your own end. So let's create this is for the general assumption, and this one let's call this one our macro economic assumptions, right? Okay, I think you jump a bit. We add not to type into the general assumption. Sorry, I didn't get that, Hilary.
Actually, should we do parallelly with you, or we have to just observe?
Okay, so I think it's better you observe. Then I will share the Excel file with you so that you can also use that to recreate your own. Yes. But if you say you should be doing it alongside with me, my waste a whole lot of time. Yeah, so don't worry. Take a look at it, understand it, ask as much question as possible, so that by the time you are building your own, you kind of understand why you are doing it like this and that way. Yes. So don't worry, don't need to do it with me. Yes. All right, so macroeconomic assumptions. What are the macroeconomic assumptions that you think can affect a business as a whole? So as I said, we are not sharing the recording and we are not recording this session. Yes, I think we have more discussion on that after this session. We discussed that during our last session. All right, so one of the macroeconomic uh, factor that can affect a business is what we call inflation rate. And the whole reason around that is we're just trying to make a provision for our time value of money. So that's what we want to look. So let's take, for example, the first one will be our inflation rate. So most of our cost increment. Okay, let me call it our incremental factor. So let's call it our incremental factor, right? And we call it this one inflation rate, right? So let me just put this here. And the first thing is we need our inflation rate. So let me put this, we need percent here as well. And now there are like two approaches to this, right? Which I've seen. But as I said, one thing about finance as a whole is finance is flexible. The whole question is, does it make sense or does it not make sense? Now, let's assume we want to get our inflation rate. What most people usually do is they will just go online and get the current inflation rate and use that as a basis to forecast the 5 years. Now, let me ask you, do you think that is correct? So what I mean is this, let's assume my country inflation rate is, let's say 11.25. Yeah, no, my country inflation is kind of high. And I'm saying this 11.25 will be constant for all the years, right? Do you think this kind of make a lot of sense? The question is no, right? Because inflation is definitely not static. Yes, some people usually use this. As I said, there's really no factor saying something is wrong or something is right. The whole thing is, does it make sense? And that's what I want you to understand as an analyst and the modeler. Don't always counter or assume someone is wrong. Just try and understand the perspective. Right? If someone is using that as a base, I'm going to show you another example as to why that could also work. All right. So I'm going to highlight this our inflation rates and I'll put this in inputs. Then I will need to go online. I'll need to go online. Then I will need to search for my country is currently Nigeria. Nigeria inflation rate forecast for the next 5 years. Then I'll press enter. So I think I love working with Statista, right? And I think this macro trend is always good as well, but you might need to get some subscription before you can get that. So let's work with this Statista and let's look at their inflation rate forecasts. So we are working, our own is 2022. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for 2022, was the inflation rate 13.25. So I can come back to my model and type 13.25, right? Then for these other years, 2023, that is 11.77. 11.77. I'll put that. Then 2024, that is 11.74. Then the next one, 11.5. That's 11.5. And then for the last one, which is 11.5 as well. Okay, 11.5. So definitely, um, okay. So also inflation rate is incremental or declining. It is wrong to use the base. Okay, yes, I agree with you. Thank you for that. So now that we have this inflation rate, right? What inflation rate is actually saying is this. So I'm going to do more like example for so that you understand the reason why we are using inflation rates. So let's assume I'm making a projection and I'm saying this, my cost will cost me 100, it called me 1,000. Now, the whole concept of inflation is just we making a provision for time value of money, right? Okay, so yes, you can state yes, that's very good one. So I can copy the source, copy it. This is always good. Then I can come here, right click and see that should be new note, right? And I can put my source there and just paste that source so that whenever someone is going through this, remember, build a model such a way that even you don't want them to call you to ask any question. The model should be able to answer almost all the questions needed. So when they click on it, it's easy for them to see the source. If you prefer to put it somewhere, yes, you can also put that, but most time I usually like putting it as a note inside the cell. So when they click on the cell, they kind of see that, okay, yes, this is the source. Yeah. So what this is saying is, if I'm saying, yes, 1,000, that means I'm saying I'll be spending this 1,000 for my 5 years. And the truth about inflation is, yes, we agree that he said you'll be spending 1,000. But 1,000 today, do you think it will be able to buy the same what next year? Do you think it will still be worth that same 1,000 next year? So for the part of revenue is saying, revenue or income is saying, if I'm expecting you to give me 5,000 in the next 2 or 3 years, today is better I discount it so that I'm at least I put my mind that, okay, maybe you told me you are giving me 5,000 in the next 2 years. Maybe today I should just set my mind that 5,000 will later be worth around 4,000 or 3,000, which means lower. But on the part of cost, is saying, if I'm saying I'm going to incur 5,000 in the next 3 years, cost of inflation factor, that 5,000 will definitely not be 5,000 again. It will likely worth more than that. So that's what this is saying is, so if I'm saying yes, 1,000, I'm saying last year multiply by, open my brackets, 1 plus this growth factor. So I'm saying that 1,000 in the next 1 year, it will be worth this. If I copy it to the next, it will be worth this same value, and going forward. That's what this inflation factor is saying, that it's better we make provision that our cost will be a little bit higher. And the whole modeling concept, right, to be on a safer side is saying try and under forecast your revenue and over forecast your cost, so that when you get to the main business, right, and your cost is better, your cost is a little bit lower than what you have, right? So you need to understand that the concept is saying try and under forecast your revenue and over cost of, and at least a little bit over forecast your cost, right? Yes, more like prudency concept, conservative. Yes, right? And that's the whole thing about this. Now, let's now convert this to our inflation multiple. So we need to convert this into our inflation multiple. And on this part of inflation multiple, I have a webinar coming up this evening, and I think this is more like what I will be discussing today. How do you factor in your your macroeconomic factor into your business model and the whole thing? Now, for the inflation factor, we have two methods. right? So I'm already doing the webinar for you guys already, and that's what I'll be sharing this evening as well. Inflation factor, we a lot of businesses they've actually uh, uh, run into losses. Some have even closed down and different funny things. And the whole story is just because the modeler and the business owner they fail to recognize and identify the impact of macroeconomic factor on their business. And this can actually kill a business as a whole, right? For example, I'm saying, yes, this period I'm going to generate five. So let's say this is more like 5 million, right? And this period I'm going to generate 6.5 million as well, right? And we're saying, yes, this is 5,000. I agree with you. And I'm saying my cost this period, let's say, will be 4,500. So let me call this my revenue. Let me call this my income. Okay, let's even call this our income, and let's call this our cost, right? And I'm saying my profits. So basically, my profit will then be what? This minus this, and I have this 500. And I'm saying, yes, this 45 will still be the same thing this period. And what will be the profit? 2,000. Now, yes, the cost is 4.5. Then the second period is still 4.5. We've actually not factored in inflation. And in the reality sense of it, for example, my country, our inflation is so crazy and it affects a lot of things. And at times, not even at times, most times, increase in our pricing really does not correspond with the increase in costs. And that's the truth about it. This 4.5, maybe in the second period, maybe this might even shift to something around 5.5. Now, because you've actually failed to recognize the effect of inflation on this cost in the second period, why we are assuming that here revenue might be constant, this will definitely leave you at a negative cash stand. And at the end, it kind of eats into your cash. And the whole business, the sustainability of business lies in the cash. So you need to be able to make a good provision. So if you want to understand this more, I have a webinar coming up this evening. So you can just join us so that I'll be able to share more insights on this part. So now let's calculate our inflation multiple. And we have two methods. We have two methods. So I'm going to just call this my method one, right? This will be method one. Then also this will now be our method two. And you see how that kind of worked out. For the inflation multiple, we type one here. So what this means is this: we assume that yes, at this point we are doing what? So okay, a permission rights to required for the use. So as I said, please, we are not recording this session and we are not making the recording available. So maybe I need to even treat that before we uh, go forward. Right. Number one, you need to understand that these are our intellectual properties. That's number one. Secondly, what this is a free boot camp, and we are doing it without collecting kobo from anyone, right? And that being set aside, uh, this what I'm teaching us for free. This is what some companies do as their main core business operations, and that is what is feeding people. I did a bootcamp last year, right, and I decided to share the recordings only to realize that yes, I restricted it to people that attended the bootcamp, and in fact, I even pleaded with them that please don't share this. These are what some businesses are doing as their normal core business operation, and is paying some people's dues and bills and stuff like that, right? So yeah, the fact that you have the grace to attend this full boot camp does not mean people that want to pay, right? People that want to pay should not go to institution that can pay and stuff like that. So these are own personal intellectual property. The fact that we are sharing it with us for free right? You also need to understand that there are some organization that this is what they do as their core business operation, and that's what they use in generating revenue to pay people's salary and the other thing. So the whole objective of the boot camp is not to actually compete or affect any business operations that kind of do this kind of thing, right? So that's one of the reasons why we restricted that. And also, as I said, that last bootcamp I did, I shared the recording and I even pleaded that, please, this is just for only you. Or then only for me to realize that some people went ahead and start sharing it with people, right? As I said, financial modeling is an institution and all those things, and also trying to keep my own head safe, so that I'm not being someone or I'm affecting other people, right? The fact that yes, you can do it for free, you have this access, does not mean people that want to pay to learn it should not go to where they can do that. And yes, you are working in an organization, and definitely what you are doing in your company, someone can also do it for free, but that's what is generating revenue for your company. So on that note, that's one of the reasons I'm restricting that. We are not sharing this recording. And as I said, if I'm to charge people for this, let me even ask you, for at least what you've seen so far, if you want to pay for this, how much do you think you will pay for this type of food training, hands-on practical one? At least for people that attended the last session as well, how much do you think you would at least be able to pay for this kind of thing? Shagun believe 50K, about 100K. Okay, so let me tell you this. All right. The reason that I'm doing this for free is one, if I want to train you on this, right, I will never charge you anything less than 150,000 naira in my own local currency. Trust me. So currently now we have like 69 participants online. So now assume that I'm actually charging 150K per each person, or let's even say 100K. You know what that the kind of mean in my bank account, right? So the fact that we've decided to make it free does not mean we should use it to affect businesses or companies that kind of do this as a core business operations. And as I said, this is totally free. All the costs are being borne by me. Yes, I'm just the facilitator. I have guys working at the back end, and I have to settle them and all those things. That's why you can see that everything is kind of looking smooth, and all those things you are getting email and all those things. So please, recording, I cannot promise that. Yes, it's additional cost at my own hand. And as I said, yes, we didn't get any financial support, so everything is free and the whole cost is being borne. Yes, so for the recording, conversion, uploading, and everything, that would be more like additional cost, and I'm not sure we are ready to go into that. So the whole thing is understand it. As I said, I will share the Excel file with us, understand the concept, why have we done it this way, so that you can apply it to your own, and you can always ask as much question as possible. All right, so that's by the way, just want to clarify that. Okay, so for the inflation multiple, the first method is equal to, the formula is, we are saying last year, just as if you want to grow this one, we are saying if I have a 100 as form of value today, the 100 is 100. Then I'm saying equal to this one multiplied by, open my bracket, 1 plus our growth method, normal growth method. Then I can just align this to the right, and I can put this in multiple. What I'm saying is, if this thing is what one this period, in this other period, it is, that means this 100 will be 1.13 times is what. So I'm saying equal to this 100 multiplied by this inflation multiple, and that will give us what? We're saying this 100 will be worth 103.3 in the next year. If I copy that to the right, and for the subsequent period. So it's the same thing as our normal growth formula, where you are saying equal to 100 multiplied by, open your bracket, 1 plus this growth rate, inflation rate, right? And you can see that it will also give you the same thing. Do you understand that? So for the second method, so I'm going to do the second method for you, and I will ask you what do you think is the difference and what makes this method different from the other method. So the different method is saying equal to, open my bracket, 1 plus this my growth rate, right? then raised to, open my bracket, the period that I have here, the period count minus 1. And I will close this bracket. Let me put this as multiple. And I will align this to the right. Now, let me ask you, what do you think is the difference between this? So let me write the formula out here. So this one is saying, this one is saying 1 multiplied by, right? Open my brackets, 1 plus the inflation rate. That's the first formula, right? The second one is now saying 1 plus inflation rate, right? Then raised to the what? To the period minus 1. Now, let's take a look at this closely. What do you think is the difference?
Raised to power.
Okay, okay, I love that. Raised to power is actually the difference. Yes. Why do you think this? Why do you think this one is raised to power and this one is not raised to power? Okay, Shagun is telling us one is nominal inflation calculation, while the other one is real. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Shagun. Let me hear from others as well. Time value of money. Yes, both of them are actually time value of money. That's the truth. So what do you think is making the difference? So Shagun has given us that one is actually nominal and the other one is real. Okay, Shagun, which one do you think is nominal? Which one is real? Do you want to just enlighten on to that? I know we have some economics guys in the house. Shagun, you can as well mute your mic.
The second is real, while the first is nominal.
Okay, said the first one. So when we are saying something is real, the other one is nominal. Can you tell us? I just want us to as I said, this is not like a teacher of a thing. It's more like I'm just facilitating. So let's rub minds together so that we understand it fully. So what makes the first one nominal? What makes the second one real?
Okay, in my little understanding, when something is nominal, it's actually is actually showing the actual inflation rates in the period. It's factoring the inflation rates, giving showing the effect of inflation in the prices of things and all. Then when it is real, it is only showing the effect of maybe growth in public sales or number of items that have been sold. That's the difference between nominal and real.
Okay, I love that. Thank you for that. Anyone want to share with us? Okay. Yeah, no. Okay. All right, please go ahead.
Nominal includes inflation, I feel. Well, if it's real, it is without inflation.
Okay, perfect. That's one good important point I've been looking for, right? Either real or nominal. The truth is, they are all about timing. One is actually recognizing time, and I think the real is considering time inflation. And for the part of the real is saying yes. If you are saying something is worth 1,000, so let's use that other one to do this calculation as well. So we are saying something is 100 and I'm saying equal to this 100, which I'm keeping constant, multiplied by this real one. Drag this to the right. So the real is saying yes, 100 naira, that 100 that you want to spend, that we are saying today, is actually worth the same thing today. Right? But the nominal is saying no. As at today, as the point we are today, we are saying I'm going to spend 100 and I'm making forecast for the next year. It's saying next. So for the nominal is assuming 0 year is your base year. But for the other one is saying the base year is your first year. Right? Now, either nominal or real. Yes, we can always argue that and spend a lot of time around that. But the next question is, which would you prefer to use? So I'm saying this is cost 1, right? And this is cost 2. Let's assume you are the modeler and you want to forecast. Which one would you prefer to use? Cost 1 or cost 2? And please give us your reason.
Binga here.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would use the nominal rate. And my reason being that cost today, especially in like you've been saying, in a country like ours, cost today is not the same cost tomorrow. We've witnessed costs increasing year after year. So if I'm modeling for an institution organization in a country like ours, I would prefer to use the nominal inflation rate. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Let me hear from someone else.
I think is the principle of conservatism, trying to forecast your cost slightly higher, just to be conservative with your profit assumptions and all.
Okay, so you're also going with the first one, right?
Yes, I'm going with the first one, nominal one. Yes.
Okay. So
hello.
Okay, yes.
I think I'd like to go with the second one, because in the real sense of it, we are not supposed to take what's it called? Inflation is not supposed to affect cost in the first year, and that's the essence of the second one, which is, I think, real. There is no inflation in the first year. In the subsequent year, yes, we can take care of inflation, but in the first year there is no inflation. The real money is the money that we are spending in the first year. So I will go with the second one.
All right, so please, one thing. So as I said, I will try this boot camp. I will try as much as possible. So we make mistake, we are making it real, as if I'm building this as if I'm building the way I approach when I'm building my model. So you see a lot of mistake here and there and everything, just for you to know that as a modeler, learn how to give attention to details. I was expecting us to point something out. Can anyone see that thing? I was expecting us to point something out when I asked that question. Do you prefer the first one or the second one? I was expecting someone to point something out. Look closely. So as a modeler, your number one skill is giving attention to details, because people are committing millions. I've seen a CFO that was demoted because of simple error. Can anyone take a look at it? Yes, Ibrahim.
Yeah, from my own side, I think we are going to use the real, because if we are to observe the trend, so we can see a reduction, as in, so you said something on conservative. So, and for in the economics perspective, they always, as a business, they always focus on the view value, not the nominal value.
Okay. All right. So someone said I spelled the nominal wrongly. Okay. At least that's a very good one. That's a very good one. All right. Now let's take a look at this. You can actually see that we have three different multiple here. Now look at this. When I put the first formula, which is this, our nominal value multiple, right? And you actually saw how we did that formula. It's giving us this. This is the same thing. If you noticed in year 2, look at what happened. So as a modeler, number one, Excel is just a tool that you can use to interpret what you know. So Excel is the way you put it, that is the way it will give you the output. So Excel will never make a mistake, but you can make a mistake. Now let me see. Can you see where I made that mistake?
Yes.
Yes.
And where is that? What do I supposed to do in this first one?
You're supposed to freeze that base year, because the base year is
Correct.
Exactly. So as a modeler, right, as I said, it's not about you just me just showing you and you just see everything and you assume you know it. No. Mistakes and errors are number one thing you need to understand as a modeler, because it is realistic. People are committing millions. Now, someone asked a question, what if I'm doing a forecast of 10 years? These are the kind of things that can happen. In fact, I've actually seen industry-based model. There are some model that they built for industry that it can use. And the model was kind of forecasted for over around 30 years. And by the time the forecast got to year 6 or year 7, the cost was extremely higher than the revenue. And the old model was just showing error. And immediately I got the model, that was the first thing I saw. And it is this kind of simple error that was made. Instead of keeping the base year period, you can see that I was increasing other period instead of the base. These are the simple error, and those are the things I want you to know, that you do not get to learn unless, yes, hands-on professional kind of teach you. This is a simple mistake, because by the time, instead of the cost to be saying 175, I'm already saying the cost is 163, definitely 162.3. Definitely it does not make sense. The modeling concept is all about, does it make sense? Is it realistic? So when I'm saying, yes, base year, I'm saying 100. And how do I expect, I don't know how the inflation wants to be, right? Yes, I know inflation can be crazy at times, but from 100 to 562 within 5 years, definitely, maybe we should just stop the business. So these are, I want you to learn how to give attention to details. So let me make the necessary adjustment, supposed to keep the base year constant so that I can see the whole thing. Right? So nominal, real. Some believe, yes, they would prefer to work with the nominal so that we'll be able to over forecast our stuff. Then some believe that, yes, I'm quite sure some will still be skeptic around, you know what, let's work with real. But the question is, either ways, right? And the decision, the reason why it's called model is because it gives room for flexibility. So what we are going to do is this. So let me delete this. I hope you understand this. So I'm going to delete this. And this is what we are going to do. Now that we understand these concepts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this guy. I'm going to put it down here, right? And I'm going to create a switch that can help us. So I'm going to call this applied inflation rate. So I'll call this, let's call this our conservative. Okay, no, this is aggressive. So I'm going to call this aggressive. I hope I got that correctly. Aggressive cost rate. Then I'll call this conservative cost rate. Cost rate. So when you are building your model, you need to think, assume, criticize your own model. And while criticizing your own model, make sure you are also building out some solutions that can also answer that criticism. So by the time you are expected to build your model and leave it, right? So the model can even answer almost all the questions that they need. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to create a switch button that can help us select. So by the time you are done with your model, you need to build one summary dashboard, and they can always select from your dashboard. And I want it to be flexible. What if you are using the aggressive rates, right, which is more like the nominal? If they are using the other one, which is real, how will that affect the business profitability? So you want to make that, you want your model to be flexible, such that going forward, it's easy to, they can also update it. When you want to make provision for higher inflation cost and all those things, they can do that, right? So we also have a section where, in case maybe they want to increase their cost generally. So what I'm saying is, okay, if I'm saying 100, so I really want to take our time so that we understand. If I'm saying 100 over the period, and it's okay, you know what, maybe in year 3, we might be expanding our business operation. So maybe this cost might double. So, and I'm saying this will become, let's say this will become 250. So what this is saying is, yes, we are not saying this will not be 250. This will still be 250, but 250 in the next 3 years might be worth more than the provision we are making now. So that's where this factor now comes into play. So you need to build that model in this manner, in this approach as well. Make it flexible, right? So that's what I want us to understand on that. So here I'm going to create a switch. So here, this will be our switch button. So I'm going to call this, I believe we should know this. These are more like basic Excel thing. This is 1. So what I want to happen is, whenever I type 1 here, I want Excel to give me the aggressive rate. If I type 2, I want Excel to give me the conservative cost rate. You can see that, right? So when I type 1 here, give us the aggressive. And I type 2, it give us the what? Conservative. So, and to do that, you see now, when I type 1, I want Excel to choose between this guy and give us the actual value for the respective period. Okay, Bolu, do you have a question? Your mic is open. Okay. So I'm going to use a choose function in Excel to do that. All right. But before I do that, I love using naming range in Excel. All the cells in Excel, they all have their address. For example, if I click on where I type this one and you look at this, my name box site, you can see that it's called E19, right? If I click on this aggressive, cost, and the conservative, you see that it's showing me D20 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. I'll click on this one, come here, and I will name it. Let me call it my inflation underscore switch. Right? Enter. So I can even put the name somewhere so that I remember that. Then this, I will highlight these two guys, and I also call it my what? Inflation underscore list. Right? Then I can now go ahead and let me create the applied inflation rate that we feed into our model. So I'm typing equal to choose function, my index number will now be this my switch button. So if I click on the switch button, instead of it to give me cell E19, you see that it will give me the name that I've created using this. And that's the whole concept around using naming range. Comma, then what is my value 1? This first one, aggressive, comma, and the second one, my conservative, and I can close my bracket, enter. So let me put it in multiple formats. So that I have this, I can just drag it to the right, and we have this. So so just like you just trying to make your model, just making a professionalism out of it. So I can just reduce this color to something a little bit ash. So I think this kind of look good, right? So this is where professionalism and all those things kind of comes into play. So now that I have this, I can create a switch button that can help them select either they want aggressive or the conservative. So by the time we are done with the model, it is easy for us to take a look at, okay, what if we are using aggressive cost? How will that affect our profitability stand? If you are using the conservative, how do we expect that to affect? So to do that, I'll go to my developer tab, right? Under my insert, I believe most of us should know this. In case you don't know how to use form control, please, you can always check YouTube to see that. And I will select this combo box and I will draw it here. Right click. So I will right click and select this format control. So input range. What is our range? What is our range? That is, remember we created a name for it, inflation underscore list. And what is our cell link? Our cell link is inflation underscore switch. And I'll click on my OK. So what this means is this: I've taken away the control from this cell and I've given it this switch button. So if I click on this switch button, you can see it is easy for them to select the aggressive one. They want to go with the conservative, it is easy to select this. So now I'm going to just come here and click my applied. So I can just, let me just link this to this guy, enter. And I can just link this to this scenario that I've created here. So what this means is this is what we feed into our model. And data validation is good, but something about data validation is it can be override. Yes, and once it is over, so for example, you see this cell that I typed to, if I delete it, look at what happened. It just mess up my model automatically. And secondly, you don't want your client to come here and be typing 1 and 2 and all those things. So you also need to think about your users, and now that will be very, very easy for them, right? And I said, by the time we are creating our summary, it is easy for us to set this on our summary worksheets where they can just select, okay, we are using this inflation cost on our cost, inflation rate on our cost. It is easy. Yes, so a combo box is always preferable. Yes, I always prefer combo box. Yes. So now that we have this, this is what fits into our model. Now, remember, the other thing is our model, we are building our model month on month, right? And you can see that this inflation is currently year on year. Someone is asking, can I redo the tab? Okay, I'm not sure because of our time. Yes, you can join me in this evening. I'm still going to do this over and over again. Yes. Okay, so this our inflation rate is yearly. Now, as I said, it's all about common sense. Let's assume I'm saying I have a cost, right? Let me say my currency per month. And I'm saying this month, let's say every month we'll be spending 5,000 monthly. Now, let me ask you, if I'm saying this is a cost per month, does it make sense if I'm applying this inflation rate on this value? Let's discuss. All about common sense. And if you think it's not making sense, why? Why? On what basis? Okay, yes, Peter.
It doesn't make sense because that rate is annual rate. So
Exactly.
we cannot monthly figure.
Exactly. And that this is what I usually see most modeler they usually do. You're saying, yes, I'll be spending 5,000 per month. And you just go ahead and you see them saying equal to this 5,000 multiplied by 12, then multiplied by this inflation rate. Definitely something will be missing out. And you see them, you are building a month-on-month model and you are applying a yearly inflation rate. Definitely, you know that it will be over, that will be way too aggressive. And before you know it, you just see that your cost will be way growing higher than your revenue. Okay, yes, Benga, your answer is up.
Sorry, thank you, Victor.
Okay.
Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, what if the 5,000 is an amount on the base year? For example, if they are not applying a zero-based budget, assuming they want to grow the cost of a particular line, and 5,000 is the base year, can we first escalate it with the inflation rate, then spread it by 12 into the new year, the first year of the forecast?
I agree. I like that method, right? And I think yes, I've used it as well during the time I was also building up some models and stuff like that. But as I said, the whole concept is: does it make sense? Is it realistic? Does it give room for that flexibility? Right. So this is what we are going to do to make this make sense. Number one is thank God we've applied this inflation rate to have this inflation, applied inflation multiple. So let me rename that. Applied inflation, this should be multiple, no longer rate. So what we need to do is we need to convert this guy. We need to convert it to a month multiple or monthly rate, right? We need to convert it to months since we are building our model on month. That one you said yes, where we kind of convert it to a yearly, then we now, yes, it might not be flexible by the time we are building that our monthly calculation out. So we need to be able to compare likes to likes, right? Month on month. And to do that, let's call this our monthly inflation multiple, right? So most times you can decide to use this. You can put the unit as factor. Yeah, it depends on you, and you can still leave it as percent. And what we're going to do now is we need to convert this to a monthly multiple so that it kind of makes sense. So we are saying everything, we are saying, yeah, 5,000 monthly, then we are using the inflation rate that we've converted to monthly on this increment, right? So I'm going to say equal to this our yearly applied multiple. Then I think that should be multiplied by, open my brackets, 1 divided by the month in a period. Then I will close my bracket and press enter. So let me put this back to multiple. So we know that yes, this is what will be applied on our cost for respective period. So we are trying to build a model such that is flexible. So we are saying, yes, if you are saying you'll be spending 5,000 every month this period, what if in the second period there are some, maybe you want to increase it because of business expansion and stuff like that? You can decide to say, oh, okay, I'm paying 6,500 monthly in the second year. So it's easy for us to build this flexibility into the model. Yes. So it's easy for us to do that. The fact that you're spending 5,000 on something does not mean you cannot increase it next year, another month on month of a thing. So let's convert it to the monthly so that will be easy for us to apply monthly inflation multiple on monthly expenses. Is it making sense? 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 Okay, so but there are some months where the inflation rate is not okay. Let me see that. But there are some months where their inflation rate is not the same as previous or subsequent. So what do we do in that situation? I love that, Razak. So as I said, financial modeling is so practical, right? And that's what. Okay, what's happening to my Excel? My Excel is acting funny. Our combo box has disappeared. Okay. So yes, I agree with you on this. And as I said, financial modeling is flexible. You cannot know it all. The more you build, the more you get better at it. So something like this, I think, yes, I came across this, yes, because Nigeria one is like this. You can see some other countries where their own inflation rate, number one, is not as high as this, right? And yes, and that one can still be easy for you to even apply the monthly, the yearly inflation rate on monthly expenses, and you still not show that difference. But for a country like my own, definitely this will show a whole lot of differences. As I said, that's why we are using multiple, right? So that's why we are using multiple. Even if the inflation rate is not the same as subsequent year, for example, you can see it looks like this inflation is decreasing. 13.25 here, 11.7, 11.74, 11.5. But if you look at the multiple, that's why I usually prefer applying the multiple method instead of using the growth rate. Right, so it's easy for us to say, yes, I'm paying 5,000 for this period, so it's as good as I'm saying 500 will be constant for the respective period. And I'm saying using the factor of this inflation, right? If this is monthly, then the monthly rate multiplied by this, and okay, so these are funny things that usually comes up. But when we get to the calculations, I will show you how this kind of worked out on our month expenses, right? Okay. So we can see the number of the times we've spent on this other part alone, right? So it's all about creativity. Does it make sense? Is it not making sense? So we have this. The next thing, let's also have our pricing inflation. Okay, let's call this one pricing incremental rates. So please, do you have any question on this inflation part before we continue?
Yeah, hi, Victor.
Okay, yes.
Okay, you've not told us your own perspective regarding nominal or real.
So as I said, we need to build a lot of flexibility into it, and the decision is actually not to say, yeah, whenever you are building, you should use aggressive, you use conservative, and that's why we really want to incorporate that flexibility. So there are some things until you are done with the model build, that is when we can now make that decision, and that's why we are making this very we are bringing in that options of, okay, if you use aggressive multiple, what will the impact be on our business profitability? If we decide to work with the conservative, what will that be, right? For example, if you are saying our pricing will be constant for all the forecast year, and I think on that note, we might want to at least a little bit be conservative with our cost. We were saying, okay, yes, cost will increase, pricing will increase. I feel we might want to work with the aggressive cost rate, but the whole thing is, what will be the impact on the model itself? And that's why we've created this switch button. So by the time we're done with the model, we try and see how this inflation, how will it affect the business profitability? So that decision will be made by the time we are done with that. All right, so for the pricing inflation, let's call this pricing inflation rates. All right, so as I said, most time we try as much as possible to under forecast our pricing and over forecast our cost. So for this, at least for now, what we are going to do is we are going to keep our pricing constant. So let's say 1% throughout. Okay, so can you find monthly rates by dividing the annual rate by? Yes, so for the annual rates, so let's assume we want to convert this. That's a very good question. Right? So let's assume we want to convert this inflation rate to inflation rate monthly. So it's still the same formula that apply. Right? So I think that should also be equal to this inflation rate multiplied by 1 divided by the month in a period. I think that should be able to give us that inflation rate. Yes. Yes. So can you see that? This will kind of give us a view. I think if you also multiply it by 12, this multiply by 12, it's supposed to give us that same percent back. Yes.
Hello, Victor.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so after finding the monthly inflation rate, can you then find the factor, that's the monthly inflation factor, and then use it for your calculations? How different would that be from this one, the monthly inflation factor that you have currently?
Sorry, can you say that again? Let me get that.
Yeah, so after you found the monthly inflation rate,
yes, which is this.
Can you then find a factor, inflation factor, using those monthly inflation rates? Will it give you the same thing, or how will it be different from the monthly inflation multiple that you have currently?
Yes, it will definitely give us the same thing. I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
I believe so. Yes, I believe so. I believe so. So as I said, it's just for you to understand the concept. You can then on your own try to learn more, try to find out this and that and that and that. And I believe you kind of make sense to you by the time you have that basic understanding. So for our pricing, so let me put this, let's put this our pricing multiple. We are saying equal to 1 plus, let's use this other conservative, all right, raised to then our period minus 1. So we need to factor in period into this. That will also give us that our multiple. So we have this. So we could also decide to keep this pricing at 0% for the forecast year, and you see that it will give us 1. So which means we are saying we are selling 500. This 500 will still remain 500, but at least let's keep everything constant at 1%. And the reality of it is price of a product don't tend to move alongside with inflation rates, right? Because there are a lot of factors that you need to consider, as your competitions. You also need to consider your consumer purchase ability and all those things. And I think the current inflation that is currently reigning now, it is something they call split inflation. I hope I'm correct. Our economics guys. Yes. So the inflation is saying, if the inflation concept is saying if the cost and expenses are actually increasing with the inflation rates, does not mean your pricing, in fact, your pricing can even be constant during that period. But what the impact will be is either the company now decides to reduce maybe the quantity or the quality. So maybe inside one, maybe there's usually maybe there's always a 5 liter inside it. Then that 5 liter, they will now reduce it to maybe something like 4 liters and still keep that same pricing. Do you know what that concept is? It's also one method of inflation. Is it split inflation? Our economics guys, what is that name? There's a name for it in our economics. Yeah, so apologies. It's been a while I left school, but I'm quite sure we have that kind of inflation. Anyone? Our economics guys, what do we call that inflation? Is it a split inflation? There's a name they call it. Our economics guys, we need your assistance. All right. Is this split inflation rate? I'm trying to remember the name. So the inflation is saying, yes, the inflation concept is saying the inflation cost and everything is increasing, but the price of the products remain constant. And on that part, if the pricing is constant, that means is either the company decided to reduce the quality or the quantity while still keeping that same price. Exactly. For example, gala. Okay, not everyone knows gala, right? So what that means is, let's assume they are selling something for 100 naira per unit, right? Then inflation is increasing and everything, but they cannot increase that price. So what they do is either they reduce the quality of what is inside, or maybe the number of units inside that one unit, right? Or they just reduce the size entirely while still keeping that. I think that there's one inflation name for it. So we can always check that. Yes. Is actually a kind of inflation. Yes. Our economics guys, they have a name for it. They call this one kind of name as well. So the company, they will not increase the pricing, but they will just try and shrink. Thank you, Oladipo. Thank you. Shrink inflation. Channel is something around S. Thank you for that. Oladipo. Yes. Do you want to give us more insights into that? Okay, leave not away. Leave it. Yes. Can you help us share more insights into that, Oladapo? So shrink inflation is called shrink inflation. So you can just unmute your mic and share with us.
Hello.
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. The concept is about, like, now, for example, now, before, this what's it called? Alcoholic drinks. It was in bottle before.
Yes.
So later they started making sachet because people cannot afford the bottle again.
Exactly.
So that's one example. And for another example, gala, chin chin, they'll reduce like the quantity inside. They reduce it. Either they reduce it in maybe in quality or in quantity. But I think most nowadays is in quantity. Maybe like a full gallon, and they will just remove maybe part of it. They will sell at that exact price.
Yes, exactly. So
that's what I know about it.
Yeah, so shrink inflation is I think is very, very common, right? Let's assume you have a drink. Okay, yes.
Yes, a more recent example would be beverages. It is happening to beverages too currently. So in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you know that a typical example like Milo and Bonvita, they used to be in 500 grams refill packs, for instance. The price was between around 1,000 to 1,002. The price is still the same now, but most of them are reduced to 450 grams. Exactly. But the price is the same, quality is the same. For milk, a lot of the milk, Peak, 3 Crowns, Milo, Dano, they all used to be 400 grams. Some of them are now 360 grams. Some of them are 350 grams. Some of them are 320 grams. But their price still remains the same. The quality is the same, but none of them is currently 400 grams because prices have gone up and they have to manage that. So you go to the market, you find that the price has not changed, but the quality has changed. So that's an example of shrink inflation. It's happening even for seasoning cubes. Maggi, some of them used to have 50 inside. Now it's 40 and the price is the same. So I'm just trying to relate it as practical as possible for us so that we can see what he's saying. It's a very common example of inflation. It happens to us every day. It happens every time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Beautiful. As I said, financial modeling is realistic, right? You see some people saying, "Oh, you know what? It's a lie. I will increase my products by 10% here." Then they will tell you another year they will increase it by 10%, and that is never realistic, right? There are some things that are beyond your control, your power, and most times it is that's consumer. Okay, yes. Hilary is saying no, it's not a kind of inflation. It's a degradation of services and goods to keeping the price constant. It's pricing not okay. All right. Okay, if you say that. Okay, Adewale, yes. Want to give us insight into that?
Okay, for me, I'm just looking at it from accounting point of view. Like for instance, now if the cost of production increased, I think one of the reasons why most companies to employ that strategy is that when there is increase in cost of production because of inflation, and you know that the kind of industry that you are, your consumer, they are very sensitive to price. Exactly. You know that if you increase the price, definitely it will affect you. So another option that you look into that, okay, these people, it seems that when it comes to like quantity, especially quantity, they are not very much sensitive to it compared to price. So they just employ that option like, okay, let us reduce the quantity instead of increasing the price. I think that's just my contribution.
Perfect. I love that. So for the shrink inflation, if you check online, you can also see it. The part is, I think, is all this pricing and deflation related. So you can see there's a practice of reducing the size of quantity while the price of the product remain constant or slightly increase. So you can also check that as well. Okay, thank you for that.
Hi, Victor.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I think this shrink inflation, it's majorly industry specific, in my own view. When we look at the consumer industry, it can likely work there. But in the industry in which I currently work, some of our customers, when we talk about quality, quantity, they are really sensitive. When you carry some chemicals to customers and they see that after weighing it, it has reduced, they won't even pay you, or they chase you away and go to another customer. So what we actually do is we don't increase price until after like 2 years. And, it is stated in the contract. So it depends on the contract you have with some of your customers. That's when you will know how many percent you will increase your price, or if you will keep it for like 3 years before you increase price.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. Yes, price can increase. We are not saying price will not increase, right? But most time it is not always in the same corresponding increase in your inflation. And that, in fact, see, you know what? Even if this is the whole thing we do today, I will still be happy that you understand this concept, right? Yes, it might take a year or more before that we reflect, right? Either the different strategy the company decides to use, reduce price, reduce quality, increase it, and all those things. Yes, but you should need to also understand that this also needs to be factored in your model, and it should be realistic. For example, when we are saying inflation, right? We are not saying inflation will not increase, but let's take a look at this. So in my own country, 100K is more like a month, at least average salary per month. Sorry to say that. So what that means is this. Let's assume, yes, inflation this period was, let me do this. Inflation this period was, okay, let's leave this. Let's assume inflation this period was around 12.5. Don't mind my country. Our inflation is really, really extremely high here. And I'm saying this period, the inflation has increased to something around 14.25, right? You have been paid 100K last year, month on month. Does that mean because inflation has increased in this period, your company will also increase your salary based on this percent? Let's have that discussion. What's your take on that?
It's not true. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Daniel. What do you think? What do you think? No, right?
Happen.
It doesn't exactly. So, okay, someone even put L no. Exactly. So we want us to understand that, yes, this is a financial forecast. It's just we're trying to represent the future, but we should not overdo it. We should not overdo it. And that's where that concept of, hey, still try to under forecast your revenue and a little bit over forecast your cost, but you should not do it too much, because definitely this 100K will not increase with this. And the same thing also happens to price. So you are saying you are selling a product at 100 units here, and you're saying, yeah, because of inflation increase, you're now saying this also will increase to with this same thing. It does not apply. Secondly, you are still trying to navigate the market. The reality of it is, well, at least from my experience, because I major most of my financial modeling in startups, and yes, I've built a model for company that's, yes, startup, but they've been in operation for the past 3 or 4 years, and they're trying to raise more funding. The truth is, within 3 or 4 years, you are still struggling to have a profitability stand. Yes, we know that when we are building the model, we want to make it attractive to investors, to tell them that, oh, within this 5 years period, we can generate this, so we can generate this return here and there. But for people that have actually done that in year 0, and they're in operations, and they are in the core reality of it, they will tell you that, see, it's not a magic. Because number one, you are trying to navigate through the market. If you are doing this for a mature company, it's very easy, because they have the market presence and the whole thing. But this one, you are still trying to navigate through the market. You are not telling me you have a product. Maybe you also have some 2 or 3 competitors. You're not telling me that, yes, if I'm selling 100 because inflation has increased, I'm also increasing it to this year. Also, maybe your product is not even a necessity product or per se or something like that. So we also need to be able to work with reality and be conservative as much as possible. So we are saying, yeah, if the salary is 100K, does not mean the next day they will just increase significantly. Yes, the company also needs to make provision for those kind of costs. So we are saying, even if it's 100K, because of time value of money, it's not as if you are increasing this person's salary in year 2, whereas we are still not making any profit or something. But at least let's still be conservative. Maybe we make a provision of additional 5K. So that's what that adjusted inflation is helping us to achieve. So this does not mean this person's salary is changing. It's not changing. We are just trying to make provision for cash and our bond rate, so it is easy for us. So the fact that, yes, pricing does not mean pricing will change as such. So we need to understand that. And those are the things, even if you want to change price, the strategy must already be set. So it's not all about the strategies alone. The strategy must follow with the figures. And that's one of the reasons why you, as a modeler, you need to understand business plan, make sure that what the strategy is just aligning. Because if a company is saying, well, yes, our revenue will grow by 35%. Well, how does that tie by the time you are building your own model? How do you put that together with the impact of inflation, right? The fact of pricing, the fact of your purchasing power of your consumer, the inflation, the competitor effects, and all those kind of things need to be factored in as well. As I said, you're not just a modeler, you're a financial advisor, right? So remember, it's not all about the values, it's about making sense from the values. So we have a pricing incremental rates as well. Then what other things do you think we can have under our macroeconomic assumption? What other things? What other things? What other things?
Interest rates.
Okay, well, we did more with that on our when we are building our revenue and our financing part. So for this one, I think we also need our industry growth. I think we agree with that industry growth, but that's industry growth. Let's treat that under our revenue. Yes, we treat that under our revenue. All right, but okay, let's even put it here. Industry growth. Industry growth. Should we put it here? Okay, let's put the industry growth here. All right, and let's see. So how can we get our industry growth? Right? Industry growth. From research, okay. So these are fintech, so we can go online and let's check that out. Our fintech industry growth forecast in Nigeria. Let's see that we can see anything reasonable. Okay, so from Statista, they're saying the average transaction per user, all those things, is expected to grow at 48.6%. Okay, so let's go back to this. Let's check another one. Let's check another one. This is from Focus. So the annual average rate dropped to 13.3%, reflecting currency stability, all those things. Okay, so this is just looking interesting and somehow not really helping what we want. This is inflation. We don't need inflation. Okay. Oh, sorry. I was checking another one. So let's see the fintech boom. So there are a lot of let's check this one. So there are a lot of research that you need to do whenever you are building your model. Don't just assume and just put some variable as such. Let's see, is there anything like growth here? It's okay. I think this is taking too much. Let's check this. Okay, so fintech to push 8.32% financial services industry growth, right? So 8.32%. So what we're going to do is, at least for the model build, right? This, remember, we can still update the model, after we are done. So for this, let's just use 8.32% for now. So let me just copy this format so that I have that here. And I can put it 8.32%. The truth is, definitely, a business does not grow on a straight line method. Remember that. A business does not grow on a straight line method. I've actually not seen that, right? Which means you take a look at their revenue and say everything is going on a straight line. It does not work like that. But for this one, we are going to keep this for now. Then we'll come back to it. And also, there are some variable, there are some metrics that you really cannot be 100% correct, right? You are 100% not sure, and those are the things that forms elements of our what, of our scenario. So you create a scenario around it. So you can also look at how does this tie into their strategy, right? Yes, we've taken a look at this industry is saying they will grow at 8.32% averagely. So we're saying, okay, based on your own business strategy and everything, you can talk to your clients, and also that can we grow the industry by economic growth, since we cannot have a constant industry growth. So for the part of the economy, some people even want to use GDP and the whole thing. The truth is, it really does not apply. And yes, there's really no one way of it. As I said, the whole question is, does it make sense? Is it applicable? So most times what I usually do is, this might not be suffix enough. And that's where the strategy of the company also needs to come into play. So the financial is not an isolation on its own. It needs to go with the strategy. And you also need to discuss that with the business owner. Right? So you look at their strategy and you're saying, okay, this period, definitely anything you have in the period one will always be the same thing. Then you're saying in the second period, based on your strategy, right? Okay, someone is asking, I think there's a mistake in cell F26. Okay, oh, sorry about that. It's supposed to be one. Thank you for that. So you're saying, okay, everything being equal, and also remember, a 5% increase in a mature company.
Victor, I think you should check the next cell too, the M26.
Okay. Okay, let me change everything back to one. Yeah, I think it was when we were making some adjustments. Okay, so we're doing some illustration. So the fact that a mature company, for example, let's say Coca-Cola, their revenue increased by 5%, can never be compared to a startup company where their revenue increased by 35%. They can never be the same thing. So those are the kind of things you also need to understand, and you need to have that discussion. As I said, if you are not certain, you can build some scenario around it. Say, okay, growth on base case, growth on best case, growth on worst case, right? And that also needs to tie into their into their business strategy. So you're saying maybe, okay, if due to marketing and some things, maybe their revenue can grow by 15%, right? Their growth of a thing. So we are still going to see how we apply this. Then maybe the third year, the growth might slow down a little bit. Let's say maybe so something around 7.5. Then the other years, maybe plan they are gaining the markets and they are pushing more, and maybe just 10.5%. And the previous year, the growth just tries to slow down. So this must tie into their strategy, right? You need to, okay, see, this is not as if it's a one way thing. Yeah, this is what the industry growth is saying. This is what the market industry growth is saying. And you can just match that story together. You say, okay, if you're able to increase your marketing and think this. So it should also be a conversation between you and the business owner so that they understand that you are not a magician. The truth is you cannot be manufacturing value from nowhere. So you always have that supporting things, and is it making sense? So the next one is what we call our assets. Right? And most people usually miss this out. As I said, even if this is the only thing we're able to do today, I think I will be glad that yes, this is very, very one important aspect of modeling. It says now for the assets, let's say we have our depreciation rate. So what is the average lifespan of our asset that we can have? Anyone?
5 years.
5 years. Okay, so let's put our 5 years here. So let me put this. Let me format this to have years at the back. 5 years. Okay, so let me put the years. So let's say 5 years of a thing. Some said 4, some said 7. Okay, irrespective of the one. So so we can convert this year into percent, right? Do you know how to do that? So to convert a year to percent, what formula do we need to use? Yes, we need to put a formula to be able to get this. What formula can we use? Okay, thank you for that. So equal to, that should be equal 1 divided by the year. So I'm going to keep this constant. So this will give us the respective percent, right? And remember, this is depreciation annually. So let's put depreciation on rates on month. So always keep that at the back of your mind. So because if you're applying yearly on the the monthly on yearly, definitely you just realize that depreciation has actually taken almost everything. So this multiplied by, open my bracket, 1 divided by 12. So remember, limit your hard coding of a thing. So we know that yes, monthly, this is what will likely be their depreciation rate, so that everything can sum up to the yearly one. Now, the other one, which is very, very important, is what we call maintainable capex multiple. Now, I've actually seen a model that was built by a colleague of mine, and the model was rejected just because of one simple thing. And it's very common. Let me give you an example. So let's say we have an asset that we bought this year at, let's say 500K, right? So let's have our beginning balance. So this is our beginning balance. We have our addition, right? We have our addition, which will be our new capex. Someone is asking a question. How do you disable the fake kid? I didn't get that. Can you break that grammar a little bit? Yes. Okay. So then we have our depreciation, right? And then we also, you meant the formatting. How do I disable the formatting? Okay, I think that should be some Excel basic thing. Then we have our ending balance, right? So we are saying our beginning balance for this, because it's a startup, so equal to beginning balance will always be equal ending balance for the previous year. Our new capex, so we are saying we are getting a new capex for this period, so that will be our new capex, right? Enter. And then depreciation, we are saying it will be depreciated by what? By 20%, right? So let me put this so that you kind of understand what we want to try and see. So we want to be our capex schedule, right? So let me put this, your assets schedule. Okay. Seems I do forget all this writing nowadays, right? So for the ending balance will be our beginning balance plus the new capex minus depreciation, enter. So let me even copy this to the right. So now, how do we get to calculate our depreciation using these rates? Anyone? So we are doing this together. How do we get to calculate our depreciation? If you are using the percent.
Can I talk?
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, the depreciation times the beginning balance. Since we are asset, we take it at historical. If you want to charge the depreciation.
Well, our beginning balance here now is 0.
0. So for that year, it means the depreciation is 0.
Is that true? I'm not sure we're supposed to have a depreciation, because we are saying this would be
I think it should be depreciation rate multiplied by the summation of beginning balance and the new capex rate.
Perfect. So equal to beginning balance plus the new capex. So even increase in case there's another new asset coming in, it also flows straight into the depreciation. So let me do that. Equal to, open my bracket, beginning balance plus this addition of new capex, then multiply by what? Our depreciation rate.
Well, Victor,
okay, yes.
Can you make adjustments for an asset that was probably bought around July or June, and you feel you can't depreciate fully for that year?
Okay, so that's another thing on its own. Whereas you have assets coming in at different stage and everything, and I think that's usually apply most to project finance. But when we get to as you are building a month on month, you can always incorporate that as well. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. So I click this and I can just drag this to the right and here. So the problem that comes with this method is this. The asset is not fully depreciated fully, right? But we are using our normal accounting rate. Just take a look at this. Can you see it? Can you see it? So it's as good as this 40, this 4,000 multiplied by 20% to give us this multiplied by this, and this. But you agree with me that the asset is supposed to be fully depreciated in the last year, right? So what we have done is this. You come here equal to, right, this 5,000, which I'm going to keep constant, multiply by this our rate, and enter, and I'll drag this and I'll put this. Now, this is a typical way an accountant would have done the depreciation. Now, the book value of a company can first be seen in their asset value in the balance sheet. The value of a company can first be seen in their book value in their balance sheet. Now, and also remember our business cycle, that operating asset is what the business, right, use in generating revenue. So now, which means if you are saying, I'm going to spend money on some capex in year one, what's like 5 million, and I'm saying my revenue will be increasing, but my assets will be decreasing. Definitely, I'm not sure. I think you are understanding what I'm saying, that the correlation is backing each other, right? Operating asset is what is expected that a company will use in generating more revenue. So that's why we have that our asset turnover ratio. The more you use your assets, the more you generate revenue. So for a fintech, you have one platform that can host close to 100 or at least a million people. And the more transactions they do on that platform, the more revenue you have. The more users you have on that platform, the more revenue you have. So which means if you want to increase your revenue, you definitely need to increase the capacity of that your platform to be able to take in more people. You want to increase your revenue, you need to be able to bring in some functionality on that software, on that platform. Now, we look at your balance sheet, and your balance sheet is saying your assets, because you are incurring a cost in year one, that means for all the other 5 years, there will be no capex to be incurred to increase the platform. Your assets value keep decreasing, and you are telling us that your revenue will be increasing. Now, let me ask us, do you think that makes sense? Do you think that makes sense? Because that asset is what you expected to be using. Even if a factory, yes, you have some plant and equipment that you're using to do the production of your product. And you're saying your assets is just going down, and you're saying your revenue is increasing. Definitely, it does not work like that. And this was what my guy did in the model he built. And so you go to the cash flow, you see they just incur some capex in year one, and for the other years will be zero. Book value becomes zero. So what this means is this: if you want to sell your business today, on this basis, it is as good as if your company is worth as zero. Yes, the value, because the concept of valuation says the first value of your business can first be seen in your book value. That's your balance sheet. What is the equity value? What is the total equity in the balance sheet? That's assumed to be more like the first value of a business. So when your asset is good as zero, it's as good as the business has nothing to use and generate revenue. So now back to that other method that I used. So we are saying equal to beginning balance. Let me put this in brackets. Beginning plus this guy, then multiply by the rate. Drag this to the right, and you can see this. So on one side, this is still making sense. Saying, okay, yes, the asset will be depreciating, but you know what? We'll still be keeping our assets in good shape. Now, this is where maintainable capex now comes into play. So let me delete this so that you understand what that maintainable capex is saying. It's saying, yes, we are incurring this amount in the first year. So let me give us an example. Let's assume you have you bought an office share. Okay, so what if the initial capex was for assets with more in-store capacity than the company can achieve in 5 years or so? Okay, I'm coming back to that. So what the maintainable capex is saying is this: we are saying, yes, these assets that we bought in year one, right? will be depreciated by, let me see, so let me use the same thing, beginning balance plus this addition, then multiply by this our rate. We're saying if the assets is as depreciated by this value, then there should be a way we can make provision such that because we need this asset to be able to generate more revenue, then we should be able to make a provision what's almost the same thing as the value that it got depreciated. Now, the fact that you bought office share and the accountant said, oh, this will be fully depreciated over 5 years, does not mean after the 5 years, you just take that chair and you just throw it away. If anything happens to the chair, maybe one of the tire or this, all you need to do is call a carpenter to repair it and put it back into shape. That's the whole thing about this. So you have one generator, and the work of the generator is to power up your plant, right? So which means in case anything happens to that generator, maybe short of oil, all you need to do is to go and get oil and refill it back to keep it in shape. And that's the whole concept of inflation or of our depreciation, right? Oh, you have a car that has 4 tires, right? One of the tire got spots. Definitely that your car is going nowhere. Then you need to go and get another tire to replace that. So our maintainable capex is saying that kind of expense that you incur to make sure that that car is back in shape, we can also capitalize it. There are different methods. Yes, if you have information where you're saying, okay, the asset is fully depreciated, what the company will do is they just buy another, they make provision for a new asset as such. There are different methods, right? So what this is saying is we need to be able to make provision at the same rate at which this asset has been fully depreciated. Right? You have a car, 4 tires, one of the tire got spots, and that's the factor of depreciation because definitely it has reduced in value. But you need that car to still be in its best fit. Definitely you need to go to the market and get another tire. So we're saying that cost that you incur in getting another tire, we can also assume now we can capitalize it. Remember, we are making provision. So that's where we have that multiple factor. So for this one, I can even put this, let's put this one as 1.5. 1.5. So there's really no basis for this. As I said, by the time we are done with our model. So what this means is this: for my beginning balance, for this addition, we are saying, yes, you can buy a new asset, but the one you have is not as if you are selling it off. So this will now be plus, if our asset got depreciated by 1,000 previous year, then that means we are making a provision of this 1,000 plus this multiple. And that means you're saying, yes, if assets got depreciated fully by 100, then we can make a provision to have this. And if you look at most corporate organizations, if you look at their property, plant, and equipment value, it's not as if it usually reduce just like the way we calculate our depreciation. So most times, corporate organizations don't usually work with this year within, they work with what? Rates. Right? Okay, so someone said in the non-for-profit, they call it capital gain. So which means if I click here now, you see how this kind of flow, and it still makes sense like this. Not that you are saying by the year 5, your assets value will become 0. No, it does not work like that. If the asset is depreciating and you are using that same asset to generate revenue, definitely there should always be some capital expenditure that you incur. And if you look at a typical corporate organization financials, you always see every year there must be an investment in property, plant, and equipment. So we are also applying that same concept. So maybe in case maybe they are not saying that, okay, maybe in this year 3 we plan to incur raise funding and maybe incur like 7,450 to increase our capacity and everything. All you need, they type it and it automatically flows straight into the model. Why the depreciation for previous assets is still going on, right? You're not saying the fact that you're getting another asset, the previous one will be off as well. And that's the whole concept around this maintainable capex. So for this maintainable, okay, yes.
Sorry, I have a question. Okay, this maintainable capex multiple, should we just assume it is the maintenance cost that we capitalized during that we would capitalize or assume to be capitalized on our assets? That's what we mean by maintainable capex multiple.
And in fact, there's some school of thought that believe that you might not need to do this because you make provision for your maintainable expenses in your SG&A. Yes, they might be correct because definitely we are going to have maintainable expenses in our monthly expenses, operating expenses, but they are still a little bit different, right? So maintainable capex is maybe small thing, just something, some more thing is wrong with our equipment. You can just come in and just repair it, and that's just it. But maintainable capex is saying, as I said, you have a car, all right, you have a 4 tire, then one of the tire got spoiled. Saying that's kind of expenses that you incur in making sure that that asset is back into its best shape can be capitalized. And as I said, the other way some people also make that provision is that maintainable capex. They just calculate they make provision for monthly expenses and then just capitalize. But as I said, the whole sense, the whole thinking around this is that number one, there's no way your assets can be decreasing significantly, and you are saying your revenue is increasing. So there should be a corresponding provision for that, right? Your maintainable capex is your maintaining expenses goes to your operating cost, right, in our profit or loss account, and that cannot be taken to your cash flow statements. So that's what this maintainable capex is saying. So yes, you can still make provision from some maintainable expenses in our operating expenses, fine, right? But it's different, and this also is also making use. At times, you can use a factor of inflation. You are saying 100. This asset has been depreciated by 100, a thousand, a thousand value here. We are saying yes, this 1,000 value will not be the same 1,000 value this year. So let's factor in the multiple of inflation. So you can also use that as well. Yes.
All right, thanks.
All right. Okay, so that's what we have on that part, right? And I think I've actually loaded us with so much today, right? You agree with me, right? All right, so we are done with this. 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 So in case we need any other thing, we can always come back and add it. So let me copy this our heading cell style, right? And let me put that here. So as we are building the model, in case we need any other thing we need to add, we can always come back and do that. So general, the next thing is for us to add our financing assumption. So before we do that, let's have just a short break. All right. Let's have a short break of 15 minutes. So the next one we are going to is our financing assumptions. So that's the next thing we are going into now. So what's the first thing that we have? So if we take a look at our question here, right? What's the funding? What's the funding? So come here, let me just type our funding. Let's type our funding. So by the time we come back from the 15-minute break, you can then proceed and extract this. Then you continue your own. Yeah, I'm going to share this with us. Okay, so let's see. So in case you want to add, at least from what I've said, you can also unmute your mic and just share with us. I think Faudu is also saying some things here through the chat box. With your example of a car, why are we decomponentizing it and separating the tire from the car? We are not, that's not what we are doing. We are saying, so let's assume you have a car now, and the work of that car is to take you from your office to office to home, from home back to office. Now, if one of the tire got spoiled, definitely there's no way that car can move you from your home to your office or office back home, right? So which means that is a factor of, that's the whole story about depreciation. When you hear depreciation, because that's, if you want to sell that car that moment, the value has decreased because that tire is not there, it's not functioning. So if you need to now go to the market and incur another expense to get that tire to put the car back into its best shape, that's what that maintainable capex is saying, that you've incurred that cost to be sure that yes, this car is back in the best shape to keep achieving that objective back for you. So that's what it's saying. So like, okay. So Shegun say, I think the underlying assumption behind maintainable capex is that whatever cost that will improve the economic useful of the assets or improve, okay, be derived from the assets should be formed. Okay, yes, I agree with you. Yes, I'm going to share that with us. Yes. Okay. So All right, so let's have a 15-minute break, right? Sorry, maybe some people came in a little bit while we are addressing the recording factor of the thing. Yeah, so in case you want to further that discussion, maybe we can always reach out to me directly and we can rest. Yes. Okay, so but his original cost is still the same, and such cost should be expensed rather than capitalized because it is a replacement cost. As I said, you are allowed to be flexible and creative with your own, either making sense or not making sense. Yes, as I said, it's all about your own decision. But as I said, the whole thing is there's no way. So you are only making use of that. But the maintainable capex value might really not be that you are incurring that kind of thing. It could be maybe you are getting some other assets, right? You have a platform, maybe you need to add some functionality, then maybe you need to make provision for cash to invest in that, and those kind of amounts can be invested. It's not really that it is on that same asset. Yes, so it could be maybe just we making provision that, see, the fact that you start a business today, you incur 5 million on capex does not mean over the 5 years of your business forecast that the business will not even make any investment in their property and the asset of the thing. It does not apply like that. That's not the reality of a business. So that's what that maintainable capex is just helping us to. So instead of you making assumption that, oh, maybe in year 2 they will incur this also amount in their assets, this year 3 as capex, this year 4 and all those things. So just so that you have at least a basis for you getting that value. So that's what that maintainable capex is saying. If you decide, if you prefer, yes, you can decide not to apply it in your own. But as I said, remember, it does not make sense when the company asset value, book value keep decreasing, and you're saying assets their revenue will keep increasing. There should be a corresponding connection to that. All right. So let's go for our break now. Let's go for our break. So relax. As I said, this will be shared with us as well, so that you can also go through it and start creating your own model by the side as well. So when we come back, we then extract. I'll show us how to extract assumption from your questionnaire that have been filled. All right, then you will go ahead and finish up your own and submit against the next session. But I will do example for us so that you understand how we extract our input and assumption. So, all right, so I hope you have enjoyed the first part of the session. Yes, I know it's a little bit getting interesting, and I don't want to just fill us with too much, right? So let's have a 15-minute break, and I'll see you soon. So in case you have any question, clarification, addition to what we've done so far, we will also appreciate that. And I hope you're enjoying the session. Okay, all right. So also, as I said, I forgot to mention that we would like us to also so now this is actually not like we are forcing you, but we will appreciate if you can go to your LinkedIn profile, either LinkedIn or you prefer Twitter, right? And we'll just like you to just post something around the boot camp, right? What's the impact do you think is making sense? What are this, maybe from this session or what we've done so far, what are the 1 or 2 things that you think you've learned that kind of makes sense? That right, and if the bootcamp is worth it, and then we'd like you to also add our hashtag, and the hashtag is time out with Victor. I think that should be, so you can also add me at Victor Ogundele, right? This is so just type Victor Ogundele. I'm quite sure to bring that out for you. All right, and also what we are using. So our code is time out with Victor, TOWV. So we also appreciate that if you can just go to your LinkedIn and just post something, comments about what you've learned so far on this our boot camp, right? Or what we've covered so far, right? So we appreciate if you can share that with everyone, so that they can know that yes, big thing is going on here. All right, so see you very soon. I'll just be playing some soft music. In case you have any special song requests, you can also request that, and I will gladly play that. So also remember that we have some of us that are not from Nigeria, so try and request for a music that we all understand as well. Remember that. Yeah, so make a special song request. Let me be your DJ. Let me be your DJ. So also remember, request for a song that everyone understand the language. Remember, for a song that everyone understand the language, right? All right, so see you in the next 12 minutes plus. All right, so welcome back from the break. Welcome back from the break. Welcome back from the break. The time is also moving fast and fast. Please, there's no WhatsApp group of 18, so I'm not aware of that. Yes, please don't share your contacts. Our privacy is intact, and please, I'm not sure we have any plan on doing that. Yes, don't share your number, please. Our privacy is intact. In fact, because of that, we don't even use our name. We only work with our mail and all those things. Yeah, so that you don't start getting some unwanted text from different people and stuff like that. Yes. All right, so now let's go straight. The next thing on our cycle is our financing assumptions. And if we go straight to our questionnaire that we've both filled together, let's kickstart that. So the other thing I can do is I can split my screen into 2 equal parts, right? And to do that, while I'm on this Word document, I can just press my window. There's this window keyboard. It has this window icon on it. I'll click on it and click my right arrow. So either right or left arrow. Then it will open up every other tab that I have on my laptop, and I can select the next tab that I want, which will be my Excel file. So then I can have them side by side. So you can create this. So now let's go straight. The first thing we need is our, let's look, they are making use of both loans and equity, right? So let's call this our, okay, so let's call this our funding, and let's call this loans inflow, and also our equity inflow. So in fact, let's bring this down and let's call it sources of fund. All right. So I think we created a currency here. So just to keep it constant, I can come here. This is our currency that we have in our guide. I can rename it to currency. So I don't need to be okay, we've created one already, so I don't need to be writing it over and over again. So I can come here and just type currency so that we have that here. Then what is the amount? So let me put this all in our input cell styles. Remember, that is very important. So for our loans, we said our loan will be 30 million. So 30, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have 30 million, and our equity will be what? Will be 70 million. So 70, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we have this. So we can put our total funding. So which is more like the summation. Enter here. And we have that. You said, always remember whenever you are building your model, think on how to make your model very, very flexible. Yes, it's very, very important. So in case going forward, you might want to update that. So let me adjust my row. Okay. So let me just try to increase it so that they're of the same size. Yes. And then here, remember, we created a row total. So equal to, let me just sum everything. So in case they want to bring in some other funding, you can also come in here as well. And then let me format this so that this is showing in million formats. I hope you know how to do that. I will highlight everything, press my Ctrl+1. So in case you don't know how to format cells, please, this is very important. These are basic Excel thing. So let me come here. I'm going to add to comma, and then put my hem at the back of it. So it's showing like this. I'm quite sure we can create something like this. So let me put this in our subtotal format. So we have that. Then the next one is cost of funding. So for our loans, that the things that we need. Our loans period is 5 years. So loan period. Okay, so let's just put everything here. Loan period. So loan period will be, let's just put years. And then our loan period will be 5 years. What other things do we have under that? Okay, so rates. Then what is our interest rate? Interest rate. So let me ask us, how do you think we can get the interest rate? Because definitely this is assumed they are yet to approach a bank or any financial institution. What do you think we can use as a basis? What do you think we can use as a basis for our interest, for our interest rates? we can search for average lending rate, right? Do you all agree? 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 So let's check. Let's check. We can check Nigeria. I think there's a name we call it, right? Or what we can even use the monetary rates. Yes, we can use the monetary rate exactly. The Nigeria policy, monetary policy rate. So I think it is 11. Okay, 11.5. That thing has been just going up and down. So for now, let's just keep it as 11.5. So remember, this is a model. It can still be updated. It can still be updated. And that's the whole reason why you need to build flexibility into it. So for the profit sharing, which will come in form of our dividend, right? So I can just copy this as well. What did we agree that would be? So they said 20% for start, then 40% year 4, year 5. So let me delete this. So this will be 20%, 20%. Then here they're saying they will increase it to what? Increase it to 40%. So we have that. So which means I'm done with my funding. Then we are really not done. We need to go and check the next thing, which will be, what do you think will be the next thing? Let's look at our cycle. What is the next thing for us? So the next thing is, how do we plan to make use of the funds, right? So remember, your model must read like must, as if you are telling a story, right? This is the whole thing that can affect the business as a whole. Then take a look at source of financing, right? What are the costs? Then the next one will now be, so let me copy this, our heading style. Let me copy this, and let's call this our use of funds. So how do we plan to use the financing? So let me split my screen into 2 equal parts so that we can see everything. All right. So give a breakdown on how the company plan to use the fund. So first thing, we're going to have our registration and licensing. So we said we need our registration and licensing itself, then professional, and how about equity payout? Yeah, that's the same thing as our profit sharing. Maybe so you can also put in proper name, let's just dividend payouts. Yeah, so we can, so that is well understood. So professional and our legal fee and the legal fees, right? Then the other one is, let's say this is our tangible. This is our tangible. Okay, so let me just put it here. This is our tangible and intangible assets. So always, whenever you are building your model, that professionalism touch should always be there in the model. So here we have our software and application development. Right. Then we have some hardware, also our furnitures and fittings. All right. So the next one, this will be our awareness, and that we are going to have our marketing and publicity. Then the other one comes in as our operations and prepaid expenses. Right, so we're going to have our prepaid rent, then prepaid insurance, then provision. So we need our provision for cash, which is more like on the loan part. Then the other one we go for more like our working cash. Right, so let me put our currency here. I'll put our currency units. Can put it here. Then the total use of funds. So we have everything here. So now let's go ahead and let me extract all the line items. So I'm just showing us example. You'll be the one to extract the other line item as well. And that will be more like our assignment against the next session. We said the registration will be what? Will be 20 million. 1, 2, 3. So as I said, build the model such a way that you expect them to be able to update it going forward as well. So they said this will be 20 million, 20. That's what we have for our professional and legal fee. Okay, let me just split it back to equal parts. So professional, that will be 500,000. Then platform development 10 million. Hardware 5 million. Furnitures and fittings of 4 million. Or marketing and awareness, we said we'll be spending 15 million on that. Then for the prepaid expenses, rent will be 5 million. Prepaid insurance 1 million. Then provision for cash for loan and operating cash. So like how much do we need to? Okay, so what we can do is this, since we are really not certain about that value, right? Okay. Oh, so okay, thank you for that. It's supposed to be 15 million. Perfect. So this provision for cash, I just put this as 1. Yes, so working cash, everything comes into cash. So we know that this is for loans and operations. So both of them can be together. Now the whole thing is your use of fund must always be equal to our total use of fund. So what I'm going to do is I will sum everything together first, including this working cash, this blank space that I created here, right? Close the bracket and press enter. So I can put this in our subtotal format, right? So which means everything that we've listed here is 500 million. And then our total use of funds is 100 million. So which means the difference is what will represent our working cash that we'll be using to run the business operation when we start. So to do that, do you know of any formula that we can use that can help us such that any difference that we have between this total use of fund that we've listed and our total funding that we are raising, the difference should be what we represent our working cash? Do you know of any formula that we can use or any logic?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Daniel.
Yeah, I think we can select the total funding and subtract the sum of the uses of funds that we've inputted already.
Perfect. I love that. Exactly. So equal to, they have given us the clue. This our total funding. Okay, yes, Abubakar.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, your line is breaking. Maybe you can send a chat.
Maybe we should be such time the use of
your line is breaking. You can just send a chat. All right. Yeah, can hardly hear you. All right, so please don't share your number. We did not create any group. Please, our privacy is intact. Stop sharing your numbers. Stop sharing your contacts. We did not create any group or anything as such. All right, so to get our working cash, we said the difference between the amount we want to raise and the use of fund that we've listed, that's what we represent our working cash. So equal to the funding that we are raising, which is this total funding, minus the summation of everything that we've listed here. And the difference will give us what we have here, and the total use of fund will always be equal to each other. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense. Right, so we've extracted our use of fund. What next do we need to extract? Then we need to extract our working capital and operating costs, right? And that will also go alongside with our revenue and cost. So this is what we are going to do now. This is what we are going to do. I know today is Saturday. I'm going to share this file with us. You already have this, our questionnaire that we are using to get our information, that we've extracted everything up to the use of our funds. Now, this will now be your own activity. As I said, financial modeling is best learned when you get to do it yourself. I'm going to save this. I will share it with us. Then you will go ahead and extract every other information needed. And I think we are left with our revenue and our operating cost element. So you will extract it following the same approach. Then you will share it with us. And that is what will give you entrance into the next session. Because next session, we are just going straight into our calculation worksheet. Right? So learn how to extract your assumptions, structure it very well in your model, such that it is very easy for someone to understand. If they want to update it, it is easy for them to update. So that will be our task and our activity against the next session. So if the session will be holding next week, a weekend, we also send email regards to that. And if it will not be holding, we also let us know as well. So your own activity against next session, as I said, is go ahead. We've extracted up to this our use of funds. So go ahead and extract your revenue. Extract your revenue, extract the customer base, everything around revenue, extract it, and also extract your operating expenses as well. And remember to do what? Remember to structure it very well, just like what we have here. I think someone is still asking for the video for this session. Maybe you missed us when we were addressing that at the beginning of the session. So that's what we have. As I said, let me save this on my, at least a day before the next session. Yes, so let me save this on my desktop so that I'll be able to just share that with everyone now. So I'm going to call this our input extraction. Input extraction. So this is version 1. Yeah, so let me save this and then let me close it and share that with every one of us. Yes. So, all right, so let me drop that in the chat box for us. And then for some of us that might not be able to get the file directly, I will also share that. I will also share the link. Let me upload it so that I can also share the link with us. All right, so I've dropped the file in the chat box for us. So let me also try, and so for some of us that might not be able to get the file directly, so that I can also share the link. So let me do that. All right, so I'm going to share the link. So in case you didn't get to see the file, you can also, let me drop the link so that you can download it directly from the link. All right, so remember everyone, we've been able to start the build of our input worksheets. And the interesting thing about this is once we are done with this input worksheet, you are like 50% done with your model. Because as long as the input is well structured and everything is clear, definitely building out the model is more like the easiest part of it. So remember, extract your assumptions, look at the way we've structured our own, make sure your own tool is well structured. It's easy for someone to just pick this whether you are there or not, and they just understand, and it's easy to flow with that storyline, right? Oh, this is the source of funding, and these are the costs attached to this funding, and this is how we've planned to use the fund. So you go to the revenue, this is how we'll be generating revenue. These are our customers. So you put everything in your assumption. Also remember, keeping your mind as if they will update the model later. So it should be well structured. Okay, yes, Lilian. So before we wrap up the session, in case you have any question, clarification, I'll just address that before we close the session. Yes, I know today is Saturday. Some of us still need to get one or two things done as well.
Okay, what should be the date for the submission?
Sir?
What should be the date for the submission?
So before the next session, at least, yes. So if the session will be holding next week, we also communicate that to us as well. Yes, but at least before Friday next week. Yes, let's have that. So the task is, I've shared this Excel file with us, right? Go to your input worksheet, using the same questionnaire that you have with you already, extract the revenue, everything related to the business revenue and the business operating costs, right? Extract that and extract it into your model input. And that is what you are going to share with us.
Hi, Victor. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hello, Victor.
Okay, good afternoon.
So, like in our last session, when we were building the startup model as well as the corporate finance model, we at that inflation part, because you know Nigeria's inflation is very high. So how we did it was that we divided inflation by 4 and extend it. But I'm seeing in this model, because I didn't come, like my network was terrible when you were doing it. I'm seeing in this model that you put the normal inflation rate, is didn't divide it by 4. So which is quite confusing, because I mean the inflation rate will be too high and it's going to mess up the our balance sheet and our cash flow if we calculate it with this normal inflation rate. So why are you putting it like this?
Oh, sorry. Definitely, I'm sure you missed a whole lot about that, because we spent close to 1 hour on this inflation, and I'm not sure. I want to. We have that time to run through this again. Yeah, sorry if you missed that part. So maybe when we are doing our calculation, we might revisit that. Yes. So we always
Okay.
keep time. So time. I know network can be funny at times. So I said not everyone is joining from Nigeria. So the network barrier might not apply to everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Hello, Victor. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Lillian.
Yes, please. It's same thing with what this guy just said now. During that, when you were explaining that inflation aspect, I won't lie, my network was messy and I didn't really get what was done there. So I don't know.
Okay, sorry about that. As I said, we spent close to 1 hour on this inflation part, just me trying to make sure it's clear to everyone. So I don't know what we are going to do about that, but I'm not sure it's something we want to go over and over again. Yeah, there are a lot of things that was treated there. Sorry about that for the network part. Yes. Okay, Daniel.
Victor.
Yes, Daniel.
Yes. Okay, so I have this question concerning the sources and uses of funds. So please, if you can scroll down to that section, I think that will be helpful. Okay, thank you. So so for instance, if the sources and uses of funds, we have some of the items that the uses of funds might come in the, let's say, second year or so, or whatever. Like, how then do you make adjustments for the sources of funds? Do you make provision for the source of fund then in the second year, or you shift the total funding that you need to the first year? I don't know if you get my question.
Okay, so you're saying, assuming the company plan to raise another funding in year 2 or year 3, right? So how do you plan to build that into the model?
So assuming, for instance, they want to acquire another hardware of, let's say, 5 million in year 2. Yes, so the sources of funds section. So how do you incorporate that into the sources of funds?
Okay, good question. And that's while I was treating this our maintainable capex, right? These are the things that we also factor into that. So let's assume maybe in year 2 or year 3, they might be, yes, maybe they don't even, they are not bringing in any external funds, but they believe that they should be able to have enough cash and use it to invest in another hardware. As I said, you are building a flexible model. All you need to do is to come to their respective years and just type that 5 million value here. And by the time we build out the schedule would have taken, our calculation would have taken care of all these blank cell as if there's a value in it. So everything would have been done in our calculation schedule, and it will just flow in directly into your model. So that's why I said build out this flexibility. And as I said, you created our cell style such that they know that you can actually type anything under their respective years, even if there's no funding coming in, but you think maybe they want to incur another expenses on their hardware and all you need to do is just come here and just put the values. So we build our model such a way that flexibility, all these cells would have been included in our calculation schedule, and everything just flow directly. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it helps. Thank you.
Yes. So you can always put that as that's why we are leaving this blank and we are putting it in that input cell style. So you are just thinking, okay, maybe they want to get more furnitures and fitting in this period, and you are just coming and they are putting, maybe they want to put 45,000, they put it here. 4.5, they want to increase another funding, maybe if it's equity, they can put it here, right? But I'm not sure if they want to get another loan. Even if it's for another loan, that means you need to create another cost of funding that will contain the information of the new loan that is coming in. But if it's equity, it's easy for them to just put it in their respective period as well. All right, Makinde said the file is not downloading. I've also dropped the link where you can download it directly from the Google Sheet. Okay. Yes, Makinde, your answer is up.
I just wanted to talk about inflation, but I see that it seems you've done justice to inflation. But let me even put it out for maybe if you can just say something about it. I'm thinking inflation, let's say I'm building a model for 10 years. I'm thinking inflation, forecasting inflation for 10 years will not be that realistic. I'm just thinking. So I just want you to say something about forecasting for inflation that has to do with more than 5 years. Is there anything that you can just share about?
Okay, so that one is more related to project finance of a thing, right? As I said, as the higher the period, definitely the higher the effect of that inflation. So we usually have some adjustment, and I think that was what Chinedu was also addressing. Yeah, I did a boot camp last year where we had to adjust that inflation, but as I said, all those will be done by the time we are done with the model, when we build the model layout completely. So you see how we can definitely, I would need to come back and make the adjustment. For example, because a company like Nigeria, this inflation is way crazy, right? Way too high. So now let's assume we are going to 10 years. You know what that would be saying. So there's a way you kind of adjust the inflation such that it's not eating too much into your cost, right? As I said, the fact that inflation is increasing does not mean someone you are paying 100K last year, you just decide to increase that person's salary as such as that. So all those will be the adjustment you will be doing at the end of the when we are done with the model, right? And that's what makes it different between the normal forecasting and the normal budgeting. So model is flexible, right? You can make those adjustments even if it's 20 years and the whole thing, and you realize that the inflation rate is, but because this multiple definitely will keep increasing over the 10 years. So how do you make that adjustment? And one of it is the reason that why we decided to, number one, convert it to a monthly inflation multiple and all those things. So we still be doing the adjustments at the end of the session to see how that kind will reflect on our model. So keep your tab. You can note that down somewhere. So maybe after we are done with the model, just remind me, hey Victor, but we said this is the so that we can, in case I forgot to touch about. I'm sure we will definitely touch that. We'll be doing some adjustments. So see, the funny thing is model is you are not done with the model when you've completed it. It's when the model is balanced, balance sheet is balanced, everything is connected, is working fine. That is when you now start the main work to see, does it make sense? Is my inflation way too high? Is my is this realistic? And all those kind of adjustment. Those are what we'll be doing at the end.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so I've dropped the link again. So remember, try and take a look at what we've done today. Don't know how to get the Word document. I'm quite sure if you've gotten access to this session, definitely you got an email that I sent to us that contained both these Excel templates and also the Word questionnaire that was filled last session. Yes, so please do that. So for some of us that we missed last session, is because you actually, maybe number one, you did not give attention to the details when the mail was sent to us. The mail was sent to us to register, right? Then after you registered with your participant ID, that is when you now get the link to the main session. But some went ahead, all right, they did not register. Then when it was the time, and we've already sent the mail and the information of the main session, that was when some people went ahead and they were registering when when it was the session time. So definitely they were getting the wrong link and all those things. We just had to, okay, you know what, let's just send this to everyone again, and we hope it follows through the instruction, right? So all right, so please let's review what we've done today, and then complete your model, right? And so let me see. So for the Word document, I think maybe I can just share the link for some of us that will miss that out. Yes, and apologies in case you missed that last session. That last session was really heavy, right? And that's where we created the whole foundation knowledge and the whole thing. Yes. So all right. So thank you, everyone. And also remember, we also appreciate if you can share what you've learned so far from this session on our LinkedIn and all those things, right? You can add my name and also our tag TOWV, time out with Victor, as well. We appreciate that if you can share that on your LinkedIn. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And this note will be closing the page. We'll be closing the session. In case you have question, clarification, you can also ask before we close the session. All right, so thank you, everyone. Thank you. The next session, we'll definitely be getting an email from me relating that to us. Yeah, so thank you, everyone, and bye for now.